I was 12 years old when a stranger tried to murder me in broad daylight, and the worst part was not the violence itself, but learning afterward why she wanted me dead. The reason had nothing to do with me personally. I was just a convenient target for someone else's rage. That realization changed how I saw the world forever. Evil does not always have a logical reason. Sometimes you are just in the wrong place at the wrong time, connected to the wrong person, and that is enough to make you a target. This happened in the summer of 2003 in a small lakeside town in northern Wisconsin. My family had moved there 2 years earlier when my father got a job managing a hardware store. The town was tiny, maybe 3,000 people, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone and nothing interesting ever happened. My mother worked part-time at the library. My older sister was away at college. It was just me, my parents, and our golden retriever living in a modest house 3 blocks from the lake. That summer had been unremarkably pleasant. I spent most days riding my bike around town with my friend Derek or swimming at the public beach. My parents gave me a lot of freedom because the town was safe. Crime was essentially non-existent. The most exciting thing that happened all year was when someone's garage got broken into and some tools were stolen. The police recovered everything within a week. That was the level of danger we were accustomed to. On the day it happened, I was walking home from Derek's house around 4 in the afternoon. The route took me down Maple Street, a quiet residential road lined with old trees and well-maintained houses. I had walked this same path hundreds of times. I knew every crack in the sidewalk and every house along the way. Mrs. Patterson always had her sprinklers running in the afternoon. The Johnsons had a fat orange cat that liked to sun itself on their front steps. Everything was familiar and safe and boring in the best possible way. I was about halfway home when I heard the car engine behind me. I did not think anything of it at first. Cars drove down Maple Street all the time. I moved to the side of the sidewalk to give them room to pass, but the car did not pass. It slowed down instead. I could hear the engine idling behind me, matching my walking pace. This struck me as odd. I glanced over my shoulder and saw a dark blue sedan I did not recognize. The windows were tinted, so I could not see who was driving. My first thought was that someone was lost and wanted to ask for directions. That happens sometimes with tourists who came to the lake for vacation. I stopped walking and turned to face the car, expecting the window to roll down and a confused voice to ask where the marina was or how to get back to the highway. Instead, the engine suddenly roared. The car jumped forward and swerved up onto the sidewalk directly toward me. I did not have time to think, I just reacted. I threw myself sideways onto the Pattersons' lawn as the sedan roared past me so close that I felt the heat from the engine. The car crashed through Mrs. Patterson's mailbox, sending it flying in pieces across the yard. Then the driver slammed on the brakes. The car stopped about 30 feet ahead of me. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The car just sat there idling while I lay on the grass trying to process what had just occurred. Then the driver's door opened and a woman stepped out. She was maybe 30 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a t-shirt. She looked completely ordinary, except for her eyes. Even from where I was lying on the ground, I could see the intensity in her expression. She was staring at me with an emotion I could not identify. It was not anger exactly. It was something colder and more focused. She reached back into the car and pulled something out. My brain registered what it was before I could fully believe it. A knife. A large kitchen knife with a blade that caught the sunlight. This ordinary-looking woman was holding a knife and walking toward me with deliberate steps. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I did not know where I was running. I just knew I needed to get away from her. I cut across the Pattersons' yard and through the gap between their house and the Miller's house. I could hear her behind me, her footsteps pounding on the grass. I emerged into the Miller's backyard and kept running toward the fence at the rear of their property. I grabbed the top of the fence and hauled myself over, dropping down into the alley on the other side. My hands were shaking. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I had no idea what was happening or why this stranger was chasing me with a knife. I ran down Main Street right in front of the hardware store where my father worked. I ran inside screaming for help. My father came running from the back office. Other customers turned to stare.
I was crying and babbling, trying to explain that a woman with a knife was chasing me. My father grabbed me and pulled me behind the counter, while another customer, a large man named Mr. Henderson, went to the door to look outside. He said he did not see anyone. My father called the police while I tried to catch my breath and stop shaking. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers took my statement while I sat in my father's office, drinking water and trying to calm down. I described everything: the blue sedan, the woman, the knife, the chase through the yards. One of the officers went outside to search the area, while the other stayed with us, asking questions. Did I know the woman? Had I ever seen her before? Did I have any idea why she might want to hurt me? I answered no to everything. I had never seen her in my life. About 20 minutes later, the other officer returned. He said they found the blue sedan abandoned 2 blocks away. The keys were still in the ignition. They were checking the registration now. My father demanded to know what was being done to find this woman and protect his son. The officer assured him they were doing everything possible, but recommended my father take me home and keep me inside until they had more information.
My father drove me home even though it was only 3 blocks. My mother was already there, having been called by one of the officers. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe and kept asking if I was hurt. I was not physically injured, but I felt wrong somehow, violated. My safe little town had suddenly become dangerous. The woman who tried to hurt me could be anywhere. She could come to our house. She could be waiting around any corner. We spent that evening locked inside with all the doors and windows secured. My father kept checking outside through the curtains. My mother made dinner, but none of us ate much. The phone rang constantly, neighbors calling to ask if we were okay after hearing about the incident. News traveled fast in a small town. By evening, everyone knew that someone had tried to attack a kid with a knife on Maple Street. The police called around 8 that night. They had arrested the woman. She had been found at a motel on the edge of town. She did not resist arrest. In fact, according to the officer, she seemed almost relieved to be caught. She immediately confessed to trying to hurt me, but the reason she gave made no sense initially. The officer said the woman claimed she had been in a relationship with my father. He had promised to leave his family for her. When he changed his mind and ended things, she decided to hurt what he cared about most, me. My mother's face went white when the officer said this. My father looked like he had been punched in the stomach. I was confused. What relationship? My father would never cheat on my mother. There had to be some mistake. But the way my parents were looking at each other told me there was no mistake. My father started to say something, but my mother held up her hand to stop him. She thanked the officer for calling and hung up the phone. Then she turned to my father and told him to explain. I sat there in the living room listening to my father confess. He had been having an affair with a woman he met through work. She was a sales representative from one of the suppliers. It had been going on for 6 months. He had told her he was unhappy in his marriage and might leave, but recently he realized he was making a terrible mistake and tried to end it. The woman did not take it well. She became obsessive and threatening. My father thought she would calm down eventually. He never imagined she would actually try to hurt anyone. My mother did not yell. She did not cry. She just sat there, very still, listening to everything. When my father finished talking, she told him to pack a bag and leave. He tried to argue. He said they should talk about this and work through it. My mother repeated her instruction: pack a bag and leave. Now. My father looked at me as if expecting me to defend him or ask him to stay. I could not say anything. I was still processing the fact that I had nearly been stabbed because of his affair. My father left that night. He stayed with a friend from work. My mother and I remained in the house with the doors locked and the lights on. Neither of us slept much. In the morning, my mother called the police to ask about the woman. They said she was being held on charges of attempted assault and would likely be sent for psychiatric evaluation. She had admitted everything and seemed to have no remorse. She kept saying my father had promised to be with her, and when he broke that promise, she wanted to destroy what he valued: me. The story spread through town quickly. People who had known my family for years suddenly treated us differently. Some were sympathetic, others seemed to blame us somehow, as if we should have known my father was capable of this. My mother handled it all with quiet dignity. She filed for divorce within a week. My father tried to visit me several times, but my mother would not allow it. She said he had put me in danger through his selfishness and did not deserve access to me until the legal situation was resolved. The woman, I learned her name was Karen Mitchell, was eventually sent to a psychiatric facility rather than prison. The evaluation determined she had severe borderline personality disorder and was not mentally competent to stand trial. She would remain institutionalized until doctors determined she was no longer a danger. My mother was furious about this. She wanted the woman in prison for what she had tried to do, but there was nothing we could do except accept it. My father moved away about 6 months later. The divorce was finalized. He got supervised visitation rights but had to move to a different town as part of the custody agreement. He sent letters apologizing and trying to explain. I read them but never responded. I was angry at him for what his choices had cost us. My mother lost her husband. I lost my sense of safety. Our family was destroyed because he could not keep a promise. I'm 24 now, 12 years past that summer afternoon on Maple Street. I survived, obviously. Karen Mitchell never got close enough to actually hurt me physically, but the psychological impact lasted much longer. For years, I was anxious and paranoid. I could not walk anywhere without constantly looking over my shoulder. I could not see a dark blue sedan without feeling my heart rate spike. I had nightmares about being chased through yards with someone with a knife. Therapy helped eventually. I learned to process the trauma and recognize that what happened was not my fault. I was a random victim of someone else's mental illness, triggered by someone else's betrayal. I could not have prevented it or predicted it. Sometimes terrible things happen to innocent people for reasons that have nothing to do with them. That is a hard lesson to learn at 12, but maybe an important one. I have a complicated relationship with my father now. We talk occasionally. He remarried a few years ago and has a young daughter. He has apologized countless times for what happened and what his affair cost our family. I have forgiven him in the sense that I no longer carry active anger toward him, but I cannot forget. I cannot pretend that his choices did not change my entire childhood. Trust is difficult for me now in all relationships. I always wonder what people are hiding, what secrets they are keeping that might explode and hurt innocent people around them.
If you enjoy the story and want more stories like this, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching.